You're listening to the Sales Success Stories podcast, where we deconstruct world-class sales performers to provide insights and strategies to help you improve. To learn more, visit us at top1.fm. Here's your host, Scott Ingram.
This episode is brought to you by Vidyard GoVideo. Check them out today by going to top1.fm/V. Today on the Sales Success Stories podcast, my guest is Talene Savadian, who is a sales and marketing recruiter at Michael Page in Los Angeles. Welcome to the show, Talene.
Thank you, Scott, for having me.
Well, I'm really glad to have you here. And for those listening, we are working through some interesting audio challenges as we are both in hotel rooms traveling for work on opposite ends of the country. So hopefully you don't experience any of the glitches that we are, and it'll be smooth running from here on out. But Talene's conversation is the second part in our two-part series here this month as we celebrate Women in Sales Month with the Enterprise Sales Forum. So, Talene, let's start like we always do on the show with the top three things that you believe have allowed you to become the top selling recruiter at Michael Page.
Well, Scott, I think number one would be consistency, followed by determination, followed through with perhaps resilience. The industry itself can be very difficult, especially running a full desk where one is in charge of both the client piece, which is the business development sector, as well as the follow-through of the candidates. So I think those three go hand in hand, but are definitely are the three core pieces to my success that I've achieved here at Michael Page. And in terms of consistency, it's something that's consistent with all aspects of the position, even when it comes to the basics. In fact, that's the most important. So being consistent with the business development, being consistent with recruiting for candidates, sourcing, keeping up to date with the knowledge base of the industry, and overall never forgetting what took you and got you to the success pieces, and continuously doing those. That's what's going to continue helping you achieve your growth that you are seeking.
Yeah, great stuff. And I love that you gave that perspective on being sort of a full desk recruiter, and the fact that you're doing both the business development, which is sort of the sales. Well, I guess it's all kind of the sales at the end of the day, but developing opportunities to then go source candidates for those. And I think the challenging part of that type of recruiting is it's not all sales, if you will, right? You don't sell it and then somebody else delivers the solution. You basically have to then turn around and go find those candidates and fulfill what you sold. So maybe talk a little bit more about that, and tell us a little bit more about who is Michael Page as an organization.
Sure. So I'll start with Michael Page and a little rundown of their history, but it is a global publicly traded search firm. It started about 41 years ago out in the UK, and we have a global presence today. In the US, we have 9 offices and 2 in Canada, and then I also from our Los Angeles office. And I cover the consumer goods sector with a specific focus of children's, juvenile, and toys consumer electronics divisions. Within those, I recruit solely within sales marketing, anywhere from your mid to senior level recruitment. And as far as your initial question is concerned, yes, I do run a full desk. I'm in charge of both finding my clients that I work with, as well as the candidates, which I present to my candidates. So from A to Z, both my clients and my candidates deal directly and solely with me. However, that does not exclude that should a colleague of mine need let's say, an introduction to a client I'm working with, or a candidate for one of their positions, we all share candidates at Michael Page. It's not commission-based, so it makes it a bit more of a friendlier, I guess you can say, environment where it's the benefit of the client all in all.
Excellent. Now, how did you get into sales and into recruiting in the first place?
I was actually recruited. This, you could say, is my first sales position, true sales position I held. And yes, I was recruited into this position by an internal recruiter at Michael Page.
Perfect. Of course. That's so fitting.
Yes.
So before we talk about Talene's performance and results, which are incredibly impressive, I want to thank the exclusive sponsor of this episode, and that is the tool formerly known as Viewed, which is now Vidyard GoVideo. Thanks to Vidyard GoVideo, the rest of this episode will be completely uninterrupted, and I hope you'll help me thank them and help yourself in the process by getting their free Chrome plugin that allows you to create personalized videos to include in your email outreach to really stand out and get significantly higher response rates. Just go to top1.fm/V, that's the letter V, or go to any page on top1.fm and click on their ad. So Talene, tell us about how you've done and just sort of quantify your results for us.
Sure. So I've been with the business for 2 years now, and I've done 1,350,000-ish totally. And as far as year to date, I've done about 750-ish.
Perfect. And what does that mean in terms of your position in the organization?
So I did. Individuals either are brought onto the business as either an associate consultant or a recruitment consultant. I was brought on as a recruitment consultant, and then thereafter there's 3 more levels, and then you become a manager. So I guess per se by title, today I am a manager.
Excellent. And I believe you told me that you are the number one recruiter there globally.
Yes. So across globally speaking, but for Michael Page, I mean, they do quantify just because they are a global brand regionally. So for all of North America, I hold the number one spot. But yes, globally speaking as well, I am number one.
Fantastic.
So.
Excellent. So, from an accomplishment perspective, I mean, it sounds like you're relatively new to sales and to recruiting, although have very, very quickly risen up the ranks. What are you most proud of from an accomplishment perspective?
I'm most proud of developing the industry which I have. I was when I was recruited, of course, into the position. I was placed actually with supply chain and procurement. So I began recruitment there. I did that for about 2 months, and then they switched me over to the sales and marketing division as they needed to grow that side of the business. So then it was kind of taking a step back to take which I didn't know, 2, 3, 4 steps forward. So then I began in sales and marketing essentially January of 2016. So yes, it's been a very fun ride, but it's been very challenging in the sense of understanding what exactly I'm going to be recruiting for when it comes to specific industries. So yes, I was placed within consumer goods, but consumer goods is very broad. And I found it would be best suited for me as I look to develop a career and have passion for what I do if I recruited for something I was personally passionate about. So I developed the industry and the niche for Michael Page, and I guess here I am today.
And you got to sort of steer that and direct that yourself in terms of where you wanted to focus and how you wanted to niche down? Correct.
So I was placed within consumer goods and within sales and marketing, but they thankfully did provide the autonomy and the tools for me to be able to, of course, once I proved myself, showing the worth of the space I want to, specialize in, and they were very supportive and helped me build a business in that sector.
Awesome. So what is, I could probably guess, but what is the most challenging part of your role?
The resilience when it comes to business development, because it's something, well, I guess that's one piece of it. And then there's the resilience, I guess, all in all, because we're dealing not with a product, and yes, it's a service, but it's a service that is a human we're dealing with on both ends. We're trading a human, we're trading a service that needs to be agreed upon on both ends, and anything can go wrong at any given point of time. So that's one aspect that can be difficult. And then the other aspect of resilience comes into play when you're continuously faced with rejections of, no, I don't want to work with you for this reason, or no, I don't want to leave my company for this reason or that reason. But not giving up and continuously, pushing forward until everything falls into place. And it takes some time to realize that. But once you do, you definitely see your fruitful tree.
Yeah, and how are you managing through that and sort of dealing with, I mean, I can imagine, especially on the placement side of things, I mean, this is very, very human, very emotional. A lot of things that are out of your control are probably impacting your results. So how do you stay resilient in face of that kind of experience?
Sure. Well, I won't lie. I mean, there's definitely, it's like a roller coaster. There's ups and downs at all times. But I think I'm personally, I mean, I never give up. So I don't think there will ever be a day where I just close the book and say, okay, I'm done with anything in my life. Perhaps I might want to steer a little different in direction or specialize further in a specific something. But something that definitely keeps me going is when I hear whether it's from clients or various candidates or receiving emails, just recognition in sense of like, oh, I was at a trade show and I heard about you, or this client has referred me to you, things like that, I think definitely make me see the brighter side on more gloomier days.
Yeah, so just it sounds like a lot of it is just that consistency, kind of persevering, staying in the space, and knowing that continuing to maintain that focus and be consistent in what you're doing. Like ultimately, you're going to get the results, even though there's certainly going to be disappointments and rejection along the way. Sure.
Yeah. So there's the personal piece of me telling myself that, and then there's also the outside piece of when I do hear, I can. Anyone, I mean, can go months without, let's say, I don't know, either it's picking up a job, doing a placement, anything that can be putting you down or saying, okay, maybe I'm not meant for this job, or maybe I'm just not good at this. But it's something that internally I tell myself, even if this doesn't happen or this doesn't fall through, it'll happen. It'll soon happen. And also hearing it from being reinforced within the industry, whether it's from a client or candidate, reaching out to me, introducing themselves, wanting to work with me. And it does show that clearly they heard of me and my capabilities from a positive aspect. So it's inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there other kind of routines or habits that you have just to maintain that positivity and that outlook and mindset?
I definitely speak to my candidates, on a daily basis, the ones I'm working with actively, and then others, that I've, met at one point or another, timely here and there. Either I or them we do keep in touch, but also trade shows, I believe, are a great meeting point for everyone, whether it's clients or candidates. And then from a client perspective, I respect everyone's decision whether they decide to work with me or not, but I still keep in touch with them, even if it's just stopping by the office and saying hi, or dropping an email, or proactively just giving a call one day, seeing how everything is going.
Got it. So it sounds like really just getting reinforcement from the what you've created. I mean, the results of your solution, which is these great placements, and you've certainly probably changed people's lives and careers through that. So that's got to be motivating.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So tell us about kind of your day. What does that look like? When do you get up? Kind of walk us through how you stay organized from that perspective.
Sure. So my day actually starts maybe around 9:30, 10-ish. My alarm goes off around 9 o'clock, and from there, first thing I do is, of course, check the emails, respond to any urgent needs, fires, and then as soon as I arrive in the office, if there's anything I have to address further, or calls I have to make for whichever reason, I go ahead and adhere to those, and then I kind of separate my day into client activity and candidate activity, focusing on the client activity first and then followed through by the candidate activity, only because the candidate activity, of course, candidates are working. They are in active roles, so it's convenient for both them and I that I speak to them either after hours or during perhaps a lunch break, or usually after 3-4 p.m. Pacific.
Got it. And talk about the back end of your day, because your day runs pretty long.
Yes, it does. So I work with a lot of international clients, or even those on the East Coast. So I do usually, I've stayed longer, but usually maybe either around anywhere from 1 to 3 a.m. I'll be found at the office, and I'm kind of the night owl, so we kind of have a joke in the office, but I stay and make sure the office stays safe and clean, and then they come in the morning, and then I come over in the afternoon area.
Nice. And how much of that is driven by just sort of you and your style and personality, and how much of it that is just because that's kind of the nature of the business and where your clients are and kind of the way the time zones work?
Oh, no, it's like 100% driven by me. I think it's an anomaly for sure. Whoever I say this to, is completely shocked. I even have clients sometimes asking, what hours do you work? And it's because, if they email me, let's say at 7 a.m., they might not get a response right away. They'll start getting responses starting at 9 a.m., but if they email me at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., they'll receive a response within minutes. So I think it's something that works well for both parties, but yes, it is driven by me.
Well, and at some level...
this is not a hearing. If someone asks to speak at a specific time, of course, I will speak at that time. Or, meet at a specific time. But generally, that's the time I usually work from.
Sure. Well, and we work at completely opposite times. I'm up at probably when you are calling it a day. I'm up at 4:15 or 4:30, but I find probably the same way you do is in those off hours, right? When most of the world is asleep, you're just not interrupted. You're able to really crank and accomplish so much because you don't have all of the distractions and disruptions that everybody else has during a regular work.
Definitely. That's a really good point. I think that's everyone always asks me, like, how do you do it? I check out at 3:00. I just need to go home. And it's for me, I can physically be in the office, but I'm so much more efficient when there's no sounds, there's no one talking, it's quiet in the area. Our office space is an open office, so it can get a bit distracting when I'm speaking to clients and, they can't perhaps hear clearly, or I can't focus or concentrate 100%. But when it's completely quiet, it's, knocking down your checklist and just getting it through.
So, Talene, is there a way that, beyond the completely time-shifted day that you're working, is there a way that you tend to kind of organize and optimize your week or your month and the way that you approach things from that perspective?
From a month perspective, I always know, let's say we're about to, get into November, so I already know what I'm going to be closing in November, and what I'm going to be ending the quarter with, approximately, give or take. So I always have that. There's, of course, room for new business development always falling through at one point or another, but things that are for certain, I always know before the month even begins. And so I'm always thinking, not necessarily, okay, what am I going to be closing this week, this month, but more so, what am I going to be closing the following month, this coming quarter. So I'm always assuring my pipeline of both from the candidate side and the client side is always active, and I have things that I can be working on, because that's something that if it's non-existent or dry, the job just gets, of course, boring and not very attractive for someone like me who I need to stay busy.
Yeah, and so it sounds like that's really just a function of how long it takes for you to go through a complete cycle and get somebody placed. So, something that you're closing this month, that was based on work that you did 2 or 3 or 4 months previous, and you're just looking further ahead going, okay, do I have enough pipeline to know that next February I'm going to have a good month, because that's dependent on what I do today? Correct.
So it's the actual recruitment process can be as short as 4 months, but it just depends on, clients and their travel schedules and whatnot. But, from the time I first reach out to a client to the time I place with them, it can, minimum 3-4 months. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah. Now, is there a particular sort of goal setting process that you're doing, or a way that you are making sure that you've got enough pipeline to know that, in 4 months from now, you're going to have enough business to have a really solid month or quarter?
I try to close about, 2 to 3 positions on a monthly basis. And I don't really quantify it in that sense, I just always assure I'm kept busy. So, for example, if on a weekly basis I'm not sending a short list for a new position, I know something's wrong. Rather than saying, okay, this position are not going to be closing. I base it based on the basics of the position, sending out that short list or doing your business development piece, or do I have strong candidates, things of that sort.
So what are you measuring and thinking about? Because, I mean, we talked before. I mean, you don't really put a lot of emphasis on your activity. I've certainly talked with a lot of other recruiters and people who have that background where their world in those days was, they were making 100 calls a day, things like that. What are you using to sort of measure and know that this was a good, successful, productive day, for example?
Yes, so I quantify, and I guess, yes, there's KPIs, we have to be on the phone for X amount of minutes, you have to reach out to X amount of people, but I've never found that something that, is useful or motivating to me. As I said earlier, I'm very self-driven, so for myself, it's more so, I need to close this job this week. I need to speak to this client this week. I need to find 3 candidates that I can send into my short list to my client today. So it's more so, I will do as many calls as it takes to get those 3 candidates. I will reach out to, whoever I need to speak to whoever I need to. It's more of that mentality rather than, okay, I need to do 600 minutes, so I have 200 more minutes to go.
Got it. So much more results oriented, right? I'm just going to get to the goal, correct, whatever it takes to get there. I'm not going to worry about how many calls or how many minutes or anything like that to get there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So what does your information diet look like in the several minutes that you're not working in a given day? What are you reading, listening to, and watching?
I'm sleeping. I'm sleeping. I'm playing games. Board games or, Scramble, different types of games, or, maybe watching a movie. Of course, there's a social media aspect, scrolling through Instagram, seeing different pictures. I love pictures. But yes, watching maybe the news here and there, but not too often. But I have news on my Instagram, so yes, I do check stuff. It's more so relaxing and trying to shut down and not think, let my brain rest a little, because the job really takes over your life, and you're constantly, I can be, okay, I'm going to go to bed, and then 20 minutes me trying to sleep, I remember, oh my gosh, I forgot to do X, Y, Z, or let me make sure I send this email. So it's really, I need to shut down sometimes mentally.
It. Yeah, that totally makes sense. So what about tools and apps that you can't live without as part of just your day-to-day process? Where do you spend most of your time from a technology standpoint?
In terms of which apps I use?
Yep.
Well, Waze for sure. In getting around, especially in LA, trying to find the shortest route. And then I guess I would say Instagram, Snapchat when it comes to the picture, social side of things. And then music. I love my music, so YouTube, SoundHound when I'm trying to find new music. And then, of course, your Ubers, your Lyft, and let's see, I don't know, traveling. I love to travel, so Airbnb for various places. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
And what about? We talked a little bit about this before. Where does LinkedIn fit into your day and your process?
Oh, so LinkedIn is huge. So yeah, I didn't mention that when you asked about the apps, just because I don't use it on my phone. For some reason, I don't like the app version of it, but LinkedIn is 100%. I don't think I would have reached the success I have today without LinkedIn. I find all my candidates via LinkedIn. I do a lot of industry knowledge gaining via LinkedIn. It's a great tool. Both in all aspects. Entirely. I reach out to them. I speak to them. And you're able to understand the marketplace and understand various candidates via their LinkedIn page. Of course, vary from a general and brief perspective, but you're able to do so without having their contact details or anything of that sort. The rest is upon your initiation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and from, I mean, you must look at more LinkedIn profiles than anybody I know. What do you see, right? What makes for a good LinkedIn profile? And on the flip side, are there kind of red flags or things that you see where you'll basically dismiss somebody out of hand because something you might see on their profile?
Sure. So, I mean, of course, you want to have a professional picture. That's first and foremost. I mean, that's very, very important. Titles, in terms of positions you hold, you want to make sure those are clear. So if, let's say I'm looking for a marketing manager, you should have marketing manager listed. If I'm looking for a VP of sales, you should have, if you're a VP of sales, you should have VP of sales, the regions, perhaps some accounts, or at least a specific channel which you oversee. Things, very basic, brief details that one is able to, from a recruiting standpoint or for a potential employer standpoint, view your LinkedIn page and quickly assess, is this individual qualified for me to reach out to? But, of course, you have to respect confidentiality. You shouldn't necessarily at times be putting specific numbers, specific accounts if it's confidential out for the public to see. But I believe basic information should be listed for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Good input. And what I heard there was really just concise, easily readable, and kind of skimmable, and also kind of keyword rich for the things that you've done that are representative of your experience.
Yes, correct.
Talene, talk about, I mean, what is your style, or how would you describe your approach in general?
I'm very casual, I believe. Professional, of course, but I believe I'm very casual, regardless who I'm speaking to. I make the conversation very comfortable, and at times it can even be very brief, if I need to speak to you, but you're not available for whichever reason. I'm very transparent in the sense of, what the situation at hand might be. If I have to meet a specific deadline in sense of turning in a shortlist to a client, I will advise the candidate of the situation and have them, make the decision thereafter. I don't say, I speak to you now or never, but I do let them know this is the situation. If you wish to be a part of the first shortlist, I can, have a quick 5 to 10 minute conversation with you just to assure the major points are there, and then we can have a follow-up conversation. And then on the client side, I'm very, very transparent. I've had a client previously, I've advised to have them retract an offer from one of my candidates that they had presented to, just because I felt from various activities that it wouldn't be the best representation and best candidate for them. Of course, it had to be their decision, but I kind of offered my viewpoints to them because it's a client I work with very closely, and they trusted my opinion and they retracted the offer, and then shortly thereafter saw exactly what I was mentioning. So I believe that definitely goes along with my transparency and transparency, professionalism, and just a casual environment that I am able to, and comfortable, I think would be a better word instead of casual, that I make for both the clients and candidates I work with.
Yeah, well, and it also sounds like what I'm hearing in you talking about that is you really care about the result that both your clients are getting and that your candidates are getting, right? You want to make sure that everybody's going into a good situation.
Of course. I mean, and we don't here at Michael Page work on a commission basis. So for me, whether I close a specific role or not, it really doesn't affect my pocket. It's more so I want to work with this client continuously. So I want them to know that I care for them, and I want them to make the best hire possible, whether that is with or without my candidate. Now, of course, I wish I'm able to present them with the best candidate, because that's what makes my job fun, that I get to work on various positions. But I'm very, very honest, and I think that's gotten me to kind of the success which I have achieved. They feel comfortable. They trust the various advices or comments that I do share with them.
Okay, we need to go back to something you just said. I was going to ask you sort of what it is that motivates you, but did you just say you don't work on commission?
Yes, we don't work on commission.
So how does money play into the motivation impact of that? Because typically that's one of the big drivers for those of us in sales is it's that paycheck. And so what's motivating all of this extra work that you're doing? Because you're certainly not working a standard work day by any stretch of the imagination.
It's me. I mean, I'm super crazy. That's why recruitment is a very tough industry to be in. But Michael Page entirely, I mean, I think a lot of recruitment agencies do work on commission, but Michael Page does not offer commission. Instead, they offer it's a base salary that you receive plus a bonus. So it's a quarterly bonus, of course, based on your billings. You get a specific percentage of it. So that's into play, but it's not commission. I guess I need to be working at all times on a role. I cannot just not be working on something, not have anything, not be working on any candidates, shortlists, things like that. But that's what drives me and motivates me, because then I don't want to go to work. I don't want to be spending all the hours just staring at a computer screen when there's no activity going. So those are the factors that personally drive me. I know I'm very obsolete in that sense, but of course, money is very, empowering at times to have, but I wouldn't say it's the main driver for sure.
Well, what's the main driver? Because I think what I heard there is you can't be bored. You need to be working. But what's the one thing that's really driving that?
I wanna build an image, build a brand around myself, and I guess hopefully one day become something that people will recognize me and remember me for. Now today it's recruitment. I don't know what it'll be 5 to 10 years from now. Hopefully, if it maintains and stays within recruitment, that'll make me super happy. But I mean, even today, like I said earlier, receiving calls and referrals, recommendations from people within the industry, that speaks to that empowers me, that keeps me going, that inspires me that, okay, I'm doing what I wanted to do, so I'm going to continue doing it so it can be on a bigger scale. Nice.
Perfect. So, perhaps along those lines, is there something that you believe that you think the average sales professional or the average recruiter would think is just crazy?
So, yes, there's a lot of things, but I think one thing that would definitely stand out is when I was moved into the sales and marketing division, again, 3 months with Michael Page, I was placed within consumer goods, and what was thriving at the time for the LA market for sales, marketing, consumer goods was the food and beverage space. And I just didn't find that as something interesting or something I wanted to be a part of. I loved consumer goods. It's because I can, of course, relate to it, but I wanted to find an industry that I truly was passionate for. So yes, I did try to do the food and beverage side, but I wasn't truly passionate and committed to growing that business. So I found my specialty and niche, things that I truly can personally, crave and want to do and want to learn more about, which is, the toys, consumer electronics, children's space. And hence, I was called crazy for, missing out on a potential bonus, for not meeting goals, or, working independently and not working with a team, or working off of a foundation, having to start from scratch. But it was things I was willing to risk to make my time as a recruiter an enjoyable one.
Nice. Goes back to, I don't know that I've ever shared this on the show, but one of my own sort of guiding principles is if you don't love what you do, it's work, and work sucks. So, similarly, I've always tried to be in a position where it goes back to passion at the end of the day, right? You've got to have something that you are personally interested in. Otherwise, if you're just doing it for the money, I find that, frankly, I don't think I've had any of those people on the show because they're not the number one person, right? Everybody who's been on this show is number one, top 1%. And I think in large part because they care a lot and they're either just personally fascinated or passionate about about what it is that they're selling. So I think that makes a ton of sense. I wonder if, on the flip side, is there something that you feel like the average recruiter or the average sales professional believes or does that you think is crazy?
Yeah, I think the KPIs again. I think I can be maybe shunned upon for saying this, but I don't believe in the KPIs. The mentality of what an individual has for those KPIs. I need to do 600 to get this. I need to make this many calls to get this. I need to do X, Y, Z. It should be very, very result oriented, and I think it should be, hey, you need to place this to get this. Focus on doing that rather than the very get-go. Of course, that should be taught and whatnot, but one should always be, in my opinion, thinking, I need to place this job, so I need to do as many calls as it takes to find the best candidate, rather than, okay, I have 200 more minutes to go, and then I can leave today. I don't think that's the right mentality.
Well, that makes a ton of sense, right? 600 uninspired minutes probably aren't even as good as 60 very passionate Talene minutes, right?
Yes. No, it can get boring, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So what about, have there been really important decisions that you've had to make to get where you are today? Or maybe it was that decision we just talked about where you chose the toys and consumer electronics space.
Yes, that can be one. That definitely, of course, that's the leap of faith that I decided to do, and it got me to where I am today. Who knows? Perhaps if I stuck with the food and beverage, or if I chose something else. Again, I think it goes down to the consistency. But I don't think, I truly love the industry I recruit for, and I love the people I speak with. And I believe that is what's gotten me to the success. But the transparency piece, Scott, is very, very, very important, especially in the industry which I'm in within sales. And I'm dealing with humans on both sides. It's not an object. It's not it's a service, but it's a human. It's a human I'm dealing with. I cannot, there's no lies that can be held. There's no covering the truth in this aspect or that aspect. On both ends, I always advise both parties to be completely transparent with one another, ask whichever questions they have truthfully. Compensation sometimes is a tough topic to discuss. I help navigate that conversation, but I always tell both parties, I've presented you at this amount. I understand you're looking for this. Have that open conversation with them. Same with the client, this is what the candidate is making. He wishes to be around this factor. Feel free to openly discuss that with them if you need to. Then that's just one aspect of transparency, but I believe you need to gain the trust of a client to have continuous business with them, or else it's going to be a one-timer. And of course, we already discussed me and one-timers. I don't really like doing that. So,
well, and I wonder, has that always been your philosophy? Have you always thought at that, or did you have some experience that really shaped that approach?
I think, of course, initially when I began, you want to, especially me when I started off all by myself in the industry I did, it was just like, oh my gosh, I'm finally closing this, or oh my gosh, this client wants to work with me, so yes, I'll work with you on these terms and this and that. So no, it wasn't always, I didn't always have the mindset that I have today. But I've always been transparent as much as I can. I have to sometimes respect personal, if I'm speaking to candidate and they don't want me to disclose a specific something in terms of, if they've been on leave and why they've been on leave, I have to respect that for confidentiality purposes. But I do share with the client, the candidate has been on leave but has asked to remain confidential. If you wish, you're more than happy to, ask them that you're themselves, ask them yourself as you are asking me. But yeah, I think my mindset has tweaked a bit, but in terms of transparency and consistency, I think those have always remained the same.
Yeah, excellent. So let's switch gears a little bit here. I'm curious about, what advice would you give to somebody who's just getting started in their sales career today, or starting as a new recruiter? What would you suggest to them so that they can get off to a really great start and lay a foundation like you have to get to very significant results in a very relatively short period of time?
Sure, I would say three things, and I share this with newcomers at Michael Page as well. But definitely, first things first, I always say don't focus on KPIs, again, what we discussed, so I won't get into too much detail there. Secondly, find something which you're passionate about. So regardless what industry you're placed in and what roles you have to recruit for, be passionate about it. Find, if you have to do, cosmetics and you have to do marketing positions, there's so many marketing divisions. Find a couple niche positions that you're actually interested and curious about, and try to be the best you can be about. And then lastly, of course, don't give up. There's a lot of rejection you're going to be facing, and even if initially perhaps you get responses, don't take everything for granted. You have to continuously keep going and just stick to your basics. Don't give up. Always push forward and think bigger. Think bigger than you thought today, and we'll think tomorrow.
Awesome. And what about, has there been advice that you've gotten, whether you had mentors or maybe there was a particularly good training program that you went to? What has helped you the most along your journey?
I think internally I was, I think, again, because in the beginning it was very frustrating for me because I was doing everything I could and more to achieve success, but it was difficult, of course, as I was building a brand new division and, of course, being new to recruitment and the industry as a whole. Initially, when I had a couple, situations with whether it be with clients and candidates, I was very excited and super happy, young. Okay, yes, I'll work with you on these terms. I'll work with you. I'll work with you on X, Y, Z, and it's really, I was mentored in the sense of, I understand you're excited. I appreciate that, but you have to understand that. You can't just, it's a give and get, it's a compromise, it's a negotiation. And I think that's definitely helped me value myself, my work, everything aside from, of course, the business, but as a recruiter, as an individual, I think that's taught me a lot of self-respect. And it was tough, of course, initially, having to reject various situations because of circumstances of terms per se. But I think that definitely got me a long way.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. It's funny. I see so many examples of, I'll call it like blind revenue, right? Where, these terms are potentially even bad for the company. Yeah, like this isn't good, but it's a deal, and we get to say that we brought in X thousands of dollars or X millions of dollars, but it's really just frankly bad business versus holding the line and negotiating what is appropriate and valuing what it is that you sell. So it sounds like you've really taken that to heart and learned how to say no at appropriate times and find good, legit business.
Yes, and it's hard. It's very hard. At least for me, it was very hard because you don't think you ever have to say no in sales. It's if you hear yes, it's exciting, but no, it's you have to say no at times for yourself and for others, and stick to your answer and move forward.
Yeah, love that. Awesome. Well, let's bring this all together. So the way I like to end the episodes is with something actionable. So the sales professional listening to this has something that they can do. And since we release new episodes every 2 weeks, I like to, if you could, suggest a 2-week challenge that the person listening to this could take on, some action they can take to improve themselves and improve their results in sales.
Sure. So one thing I would say, if you don't know, understand the core basics of whichever position you hold, and the principles to which you were trained upon on your first couple of days, and make sure if you are not, you're following those, and be consistent is number 2 with whatever your core trainings and what the core trainings plus what you have learned throughout the way. Be consistent with that. And don't be afraid. I guess 3. Don't be afraid to speak to people. Don't be afraid of rejection. Pick up the phone, call people, send an email, and respect the decision that comes from it. But those 3 combined over time, again, consistently, will bring results some way or another.
Yeah, and I can't let it go. I can't end on that because I want to know. You're doing a lot of outreach. You're having a lot of conversations and interacting with a lot of people, particularly, I guess across the board, not just business development, but all the outreach you're doing. Are you finding one tactic working better than others or some combination? And what I mean by that is it the phone calls? Is it LinkedIn? Is it email? Is it some combination of those? What are you finding most effective today?
It's a combination. It's a combination for sure because I deal with people all across the country, all across the world, different time zones, different ages. So everyone has different habits, and you have to be flexible and be willing to reach out to people on all different channels and platforms and see which works for different people. But LinkedIn, I already stated I use religiously. I think that's my number 1 way to get a hold of candidates or clients. Emails, of course, it's a part of everyone's life today, I believe. And then phone calls are very important. And then there comes the face-to-face meetings. Everything can be great, but I always think of meeting someone actually face-to-face typically seals the deal in sense of trust between the 2 parties. And, so yeah, I can't pick one specific avenue. I use a combination, but LinkedIn for sure. I take full advantage of LinkedIn.
Love it. Love it. Talene, thanks again for taking the time to talk with me today. And thank you for listening to our entire conversation. In the next couple of weeks, I'll be making a really significant announcement, and those who are subscribed to receive our newsletter will be the first to know and will have an opportunity to take advantage of the very best offer. So to join, go to top1.fm and enter your email address, or here in the US, you can text top1. That's TOP, the number 1 to 444-999. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Sales Success Stories podcast. To be sure you never miss an episode, and for an invitation to our sales success community powered by Influitive, subscribe to our newsletter at top1.fm.